Welcome to the Chelsea Fans Channel. It's with great delight that I welcome Dan Levene back into the studio. Dan is here to talk about the transfer window. It's now closed, it's firmly slammed shut, and I think that our business has been pretty good. Dan, look, the obvious place to start here is David Luiz.
The geezer is back.
The geezer is back. This is, for me, nothing but joyous news. I'm over the moon here. I'm so happy. This would be, if I could have picked one signing, this would be the one for me.
Really?
I love him.
Yeah.
I love him. I just adore the man. I just think he's so good. Every time I think of him, I think about that goal against Fulham, the goal against Basel, the goal in Munich where he lashed it home and ran and gave it to their fans. I adore the bloke. Do you share my joy here?
I love David Luiz, but it has to be admitted, for a lot of people watching, he's definitely Marmite. Other yeast extract spreads are available. He's loved. And he's also not so much loved for his defending because a lot of people have questions about whether he's the greatest defender in the world. What he is a great character and certainly a great footballer. And I think he'll bring both of those to Chelsea, and I think they'll be really, really good assets to have.
Especially the character, because that's massively what we were missing last year. I said something, and I got a lot of grief for it in a previous video, but what do you think about this? I said, I can't believe I'm going to say it again, I got an awful lot of grief, but I said, if David Luiz was a Chelsea player last season, we wouldn't have had the season that we had.
I think there's something in that. I think certainly he really does bring something to the dressing room. You see, if you're standing in the tunnel when he's there, he's the life and soul of stuff. What I'm really looking forward to is seeing him and Michy Batshuayi working together and just being a couple of lads, because I think those two are going to be famous friends.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But he's another captain on the pitch, isn't he? It's got to be said though, when he loses that enjoy the lifeness to him, like we saw when Brazil got battered in the World Cup, he has low ebbs.
Yes.
In a way, he's quite bipolar, isn't he? Really, but in a positive way for the team. But when he's at high, he lifts the whole place and he lifts the stadium with him.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is a great thing to have.
I think that if you can, look, I'm the first to concede that in amongst David Luiz's brilliance, he can also be an idiot. But if you can remove the idiocy from his character, he is a marvellous football player.
Yes.
And if he wasn't that, if he didn't have that side to him, he would probably be one of the best defenders in the league. So can Antonio Conte cultivate that side of him and nurture that side of him while at the same time quashing his lunacy?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you looked at all of his game up to now, you'd think the one thing he needs is a bit of Italian defensive discipline.
Yes.
And what's he about to get?
Italian defensive discipline.
It could be interesting. I've got to say though, I mean, my concern with this, I don't have concerns about David Luiz, who I think is great and has an awful lot of assets and benefits for the club. I do have concerns about what this move says about Chelsea Football Club though.
Go on.
My concern is that there's been a lot of retreading old ground in recent years. Obviously, we went back for Mourinho, we went back for Matic. We tried very, very hard to go back for Lukaku, and now we've gone back for Luiz. And while there's nothing in itself wrong with going back. Paul Pogba United was a far, far more expensive revision.
Yes.
I have concerns. Yeah, we've got this sort of constant state of a little bit of craziness at Chelsea, but that's not unique to Chelsea. Clubs have that. Managers change all the time, so people will make decisions that need reviewing, and that's why teams sometimes go back. But my concern is that it shows a lack of belief in the youth system, a lack of belief in the scouting system, and I think it also shows a shortage of contacts in football at the highest level of the club. If you have to keep on going back to people you already know.
This doesn't give off the best vibe for our youth system, and it seems like a lot of money to spend. I'm pleased that it's happened, but it does seem like a lot of money to spend when we have a player like, say, Andreas Christensen in the setup. Why wasn't he brought in? Well,
Christensen's seen as a long-term product, a long-term project by Chelsea. He's on a 2-year loan deal at Borussia Mönchengladbach. These loans can be broken if you've got the will by parties to do it. It's not a problem, but the will just isn't there at the moment. The player is happy out in Germany. Chelsea think it's good for his development. The German club are obviously very, very happy to have a really, really good defender. And I think Christensen is seen as a potential for the end of this season, start of next season.
Okay.
The problem, though, of course, then, as with all loan players, is does he fancy coming back?
Yeah.
But for the time being, Luiz isn't cheap though. I mean, it was 34 million for a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
Because he's 29.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
So what does this mean to our first team? David Luiz, obviously, at that sort of price, is going to go straight in.
Yep.
Who is the sacrificial lamb who loses their spot.
You can see that Conte might be moving around these pawns a little bit on the table here, because at the moment he's forced really to use John Terry and Gary Cahill.
Yes.
Kurt Zouma is injured. Zouma will be back reasonably shortly. He's back in training. So when he's got a full suite of 4, including David Luiz, it's going to be interesting. From those, I think there's a good chance he might go for Zouma and Luiz.
Zouma and Luiz?
As his preferred 2.
Well, that would open up a captaincy issue, wouldn't it?
Well, Conte says that his captain is John Terry, on or off the pitch, but of course you've got to have one on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
And while he was here last time, David Luiz was certainly being groomed to be Terry's successor as captain. So who knows?
Because my other contender for captain would be Cesc Fabregas, and he's currently not starting either. So is David Luiz going to come back from Paris to captain Chelsea?
It could happen. Who knows?
It just gets better and better. Okay, so that's how that's going to affect the first team. Luiz straight in at the centre back. I just can't wait. I can't wait to get to Swansea. It's going to be fantastic.
It should be fun, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be really good. If we take the window as a whole, overall, from the close season, how do you think it has gone for us?
It's been very interesting, hasn't it? There have been reinforcements where we've used them. Obviously, we needed a defender. We got David Luiz. We needed a full back. We've got Marcos Alonso from Fiorentina.
Happy with that signing?
He's been in England before. He played at Bolton and Sunderland, I have to say, fairly unremarkably. He's had a reasonable time, I think, at Fiorentina. For a backup fullback to Cesar Azpilicueta there, he's I suppose a good option, isn't he?
Yes.
I don't know how much football he's going to get, and that's what you get for 23, 24 million quid these days.
24 million to be a backup left back.
That's the craziness of the market.
Do you not think there could be a situation where Alonso goes in at left back, which would free up Azpilicueta to go to his native right back?
That could happen, of course. Yep. I know a lot of people have issues with Ivanovic, and who knows? I mean, these are decisions that Conte will make, having seen them in training, having seen them in matches.
I suppose that's another good thing actually about having signed Alonso. It also could potentially free up Ivanovic to be considered a centre half. So it just improves the back line overall.
Exactly, and this is what any manager wants. It just adds options to what he's got on his colour palette, basically.
I see. Okay, so as a window of incomings, when you obviously bear in mind Batshuayi, Kante, yep. It's been a good window. We've got to be happy enough.
I think you can't talk about this window without talking about Kante, because I think across the Premier League, I think people will say in 6 months, a year's time, that was the key signing. I really think that Chelsea have had an absolute wonderstroke on that. And all of the things I've said earlier about sort of concerns about the strategy, about the planning, about the way things are going, N'Golo Kante was a long-term planned deal, and it came off. And so, well done.
For a good price as well.
Absolutely,
I know he had a clause, but it's really great that we've managed to sign. We finished 10th in the league. We've signed the champion's best player for 30 odd million quid. It's great. It
is a great deal. And we've already seen how much he adds to the team. And that's an interesting as well for the people who are concerned about Luiz defending. With Kante in front of him.
Kante protecting him, yeah.
That's potentially sort of a real dream team.
Yeah, it should be good. We're also going to have to talk about, obviously, the players that have gone out of the club. A fair few.
Yes.
Happy with the way that's gone?
It was an interesting day. There were some last-minute deals on deadline day. Chelsea have now got 37 players on loan.
Okay.
Which is pretty crazy. That's enough for a couple of squads there. They include Juan Cuadrado has gone on a very strange 3-year loan to Juventus. That's sort of basically also almost an option to buy type thing. It's like getting a winger from Bright House, I suppose, isn't it? You pay a bit every week and he stays with you. We've also sent Remy to Crystal Palace, another slightly odd deal because that was almost a carbon copy of the deal that didn't happen in January.
Right.
But has now happened.
Okay. That's good. I think that's quite a good move for Palace.
I think it's a good move for Palace, and it's a good move for Remy.
Yes.
Who will be with a manager he knows well, and will hopefully get regular football, which he obviously needs. He's not going to get Chelsea. Yeah.
And we've obviously had a few go as well to Bristol.
Yes.
Do you think this? I think the 3 that have gone to Bristol are 3 that I hold very high hope for.
This is Charlie Colkett,
Jay Clark-Salter and Tammy Abraham.
Yes, yep.
Do you think that those 3 could potentially come back? Do you think that they have potential to be in Chelsea's plans next season?
Well, Tammy Abraham is already pulling up trees where he is. He's doing fantastically there. He can't stop scoring, frankly.
Yeah.
The other 2 lads who presumably will be, you can see they're going to be in a unit together. Although they're at different clubs, you can see there'll be social stuff together, which is good. I think is a valuable thing and something the club thinks is needed. They're all fantastic talents, and this is a bit of a new strategy, dropping them down to a slightly lower level so they can play well, they can put in great performances and build their confidence.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll come back far, far better players for it.
Yeah, so overall, good window. This is good for us.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, there are concerns, obviously, about, like I say, about the sort of the long-term planning, about the direction. But I think if you look at the squad, you've got potentially a first-team unit there that is stronger than it was at the beginning, and that's what everyone always aims for.
Yes, of course. And I think when we, at the end of last season, the disastrous season that it was, I think the positions that we highlighted that we needed replenishments have all been addressed.
Yeah, mostly. One we didn't mention, of course, is there's a new goalkeeper coming, Eduardo. That's another strange deal. Okay, he's come from Champions League football with Dynamo Zagreb to basically sit there and watch Asmir Begovic play League Cup football every couple of months.
Yeah.
But Chelsea have boosted there in an area where they needed a player, and it's been done. So he's not going to play a major part in the squad, but it's cover.
Right. Do you think that was done with the thought that Begovic would potentially go?
Possibly. I think a lot of people were quite surprised Begovic hasn't gone. And the prevailing thought was that at the end of this window it's going to be either he or Courtois who went, and when Courtois was clearly not going, that it would be Begovic. Who knows, maybe January.
Right.
But, it's just covering bases, which, Chelsea reasonably good at the moment.
All sounds brilliant. I'm over the moon with this signature. I think it's been a good window for us, and I cannot wait to get to the new vet, whatever it's called now. Is it called now? The Liberty.
The Liberty.
And welcome David Luiz back to Chelsea Football Club. Dan, thank you so much for coming in, and we'll see you soon. Guys, do us a favour, will you comment below, let us know what you think of these moves. I'm on cloud 9, let me know what you think. Go on, you Blues. Oh. We have each selected a side. We flicked a coin, and I am going to argue against David Luiz. Jack is going to argue in favour of David Luiz. This may or may not be how we actually feel, but we're going to make the strongest case that we can in favour of signing him or not in favour of signing him. And you, comment below, let us know who do you agree with and who made the strongest arguments.